everybody. It's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, June 4th, 2023. Is Cameron Kirsten gonna kill that cute cat I never got to see? Oh, R.I.P. Borgnine the cat. Rips. We hardly knew ya, Borgnine. Born to die, so they say. Oh, no. I've been seeing that commercial on Paramount Plus for weeks now for that new series titled Fatal Attraction. It's like a serialized version of the movie, recast and everything. But I have a feeling that that might be the inspiration for this story, that's what we're dealing with here, a fatal attraction. I just hope that it all ends the same as the original movie and the fatal part applies to the villain. Oh, man. Well, we got to start out with a poll. Are you guys liking the Cameron Kirsten Fatal Attraction stories so far? Are you into it? Go to yrchat.com this week. That is the big question. I have to tell you, I'm conflicted. It's kind of a careful what you wish for situation for me, because I've been asking for a villain. I've been wanting a villain. And by George, Cameron Kirsten is a villain. Or should I call him CK? That's also his nickname, CK. He is revolting. Everything about him is sleazy. Smoking that big cigar, standing around in his hotel room with his shirt unbuttoned, looking at himself in the mirror, saying to himself, well, hey there, you handsome devil. Telling Diane not to leave her drink unattended. Can you imagine how unsettling that would be? Because only someone who had drugged a drink before would ever even have thought of that. Oh no, this guy is insidious. Sharon is in deep, deep trouble. If history is doomed to repeat itself, I have to say, the flashbacks about Cameron were all very effective in telling me the story, reminding me of the story, but they were so shocking. I had a hard time watching them, especially, especially the two scenes in the hotel where he was hitting her and had her down on the bed, was going to rape her, and it was just so hard to watch. It was very similar to how I felt with JT and Victoria. It was very upsetting to me. I cannot watch violence, especially violence against women, especially sexual violence. I can't. I don't even like to let it into my brain. I refused to screen cap it, so you know that it's serious coming for me. I almost kind of wanted to turn my head during most of it, and I certainly wasn't going to capture it for memories. I just clenched my jaw and tried to focus on how cute Sharon was, especially with her cute and curly hairstyle back in the day and those big, beautiful blue eyes. And there was a lot of things about the flashbacks that were really cool. The jumping out of the airplane scene was really cool and really satisfying. Can you even believe that back in the day that kind of stuff actually happened? It seems like nowadays we rarely see the inside of a plane. We just, for instance, saw the wind from Tucker's helicopter. But back then, we actually had action hero Nicholas Newman Saving a hysterical Sharon from Cameron, Nick jumped into the scene, said, "You're going down, bitch," and then slapped a parachute on him, pushed him out of the airplane, and said, "You might want to pull that ripcord in about 3 seconds. I mean, that was cool. Nick was cool. Soaps were cool, right? For about a minute. And then everyone else moved on except for us. We're still here, reliving the glory days. Oh, and the haunting scenes with Cameron were pretty spooky too. You know I don't like horror, but it was spooky. That was definitely, I was getting shades of horror when Cameron was standing there outside of Sharon's window at night with the fake scarred up face. It was very reminiscent of David Kimball and his carved forehead that said killer on it. It was wow. And I do remember Cameron gaslighting her. I remember that after she thought he killed him, or she killed him, he kept showing back up, making her think that she was seeing his ghost. And then one day he just showed back up in town alive, like absolutely nothing happened. I mean, the guy is a total psychopath. Chance already told us that after Cameron got out of jail for everything he did to Sharon, he has already been rearrested for beating up a girlfriend that he had that just so happens to look just like Sharon. Cameron is obsessed with her. He was looking up her picture online. He clearly arranged to bump into Faith in the park. And he's been taunting her with these gifts. All of this leading up to that late night drop by at Crimson Lights when I'm sure he thought no one else was going to be there and she was going to be there all alone. At first, I thought that he was just going to stand there outside of the window and stare at her the way he was staring at her before. But no, he had the nerve to just walk right in. And he started talking to her as if they were long-lost lovers, destined to be reconnected. He is so delusional. "No one has ever touched me the way that you did." Ew! And then he put his hand on her face. Why did she let him do that? I can only imagine that Sharon just must have been frozen with fear, because she just stood there looking at him in disbelief, clenching onto the bar top behind her. Thank goodness Nick rushed in, the way he always does, the way he did in the previous iteration of this story. Nick rushed in, saw what was going on, and threatened Cameron to go away. But Cameron Kirsten is not going away. There really is only one end that Cameron can have, and that's a fireplace poker. He's going to die by fireplace poker, and you know it. That's the most common cause of death to villains in Genoa City, in soaps. And I, for one, am going to look forward to seeing it. And you know it's going to happen out at the house, too. Sharon lives all alone out at the cottage house. Just her and her fireplace poker. If Ray were alive, it would be a different story. But he's not, and Sharon's out there alone. Faith is home from college right now, but I mean, how long's that going to be for? Eventually she's going to go back, and now they don't even have a guard cat. Darn! I really would have liked to see Borgnine the cat just like jump on top of Cameron's face and just say, "Meow, you're going down, bitch." Faith got to meet baby Arya, her new niece, and I laughed out loud when she said, "Well, normally, Arya, I'd say that I'll be the first to take you out to get your first tattoos and I'll take you to rock concerts, but your moms already have that covered. And that reminded me, oh yeah, Arya is a rock and roll baby. Let's not forget that. Where's the rock and roll right now? I'm not getting rock star right now. I'm not getting enough rock star right now. I loved Faith's idea that she wanted to become Tessa's manager, but I don't know. I think their priorities have changed, and I have a sneaky suspicion that Mariah and Tessa aren't going nowhere anytime soon. Because not only is Sharon in trouble, but I have a bad feeling, and I'm sure you have a bad feeling too, that baby Arya is in trouble too. Wouldn't Cameron just think that it was great fun to steal a grandchild that means so much to Sharon? And the way he was looking at Sally, who was obviously pregnant and obviously feeling sick in the park, I just put 2 and 2 together on that immediately and thought, uh-oh, Arya's in trouble. Cameron's got baby on the brain. Preeclampsia? Has anyone had that? Oh no, I don't know much about that except that it's related to high blood pressure, which Sally has been talking about, that her doctor's been saying to her for weeks now. And I did read that it is serious, but that it is also treatable. I'm sure that many women have miscarried babies when they have preeclampsia, but I'm sure many women go on to have healthy babies too. So I don't know, being pregnant and getting that news from your doctor would be really scary. And I have to say, I really felt for Sally this week when she expressed feeling like it meant she had done something wrong. That was so relatable to me, because when you're having a baby, you feel so responsible for everything. So if anything goes wrong, it's easy to just assume that it's your fault. I hate to say it, but I have been thinking from the very beginning that Sally was not going to carry this baby to term. I've been thinking that she was going to miscarry. So I wonder if a miscarriage is coming, or if this was just a way to create a challenge for Adam and Sally so that they can find their way back together. Nick was too busy dealing with Sharon and the Cameron Kirsten crisis to see that Sally had called him for help. And irony of ironies, Sally was with Cameron Kirsten while Nick and Sharon were meeting with Chance about Cameron Kirsten. But when Nick didn't answer his phone, Sally called Adam, and Adam was thrilled to be the first one that she called, only she didn't call him first. Adam was just the backup, which I think is understandable. She was looking for someone that she trusted to be there for her. And it's clear that she doesn't want to lean on Adam too much. Although she did ask him to stick around in her hotel room after they got back from the doctor. So maybe there is a growing trust and affection there. And maybe if Nick continues to be absent, it will continue. Adam and Sally's bond will continue. He was very sweet with her. He always is. And he brought her those unsalted snacks that are better for her health. He probably had to go all the way to a health food store for those, because who sells unsalted snacks? Adam was also very sweet and supportive and smart in the way that he was able to convince Sally to lean on her partner for some of the work tasks that are coming up. And I know that's hard for Sally to do. When you're a real go-getter and you just landed a huge project that you really need, it's hard to let go. It's hard to lean on others. It's hard to delegate. I remember when I was pregnant, I had a really hard time convincing myself to slow down. I had a hard time convincing myself that I couldn't just do everything the same way that I always had. So I appreciated Adam helping Sally to realize that slowing down is not just an option, it is a necessity. And of course, Chloe was ready to step up. She's been very nice and supportive too lately, even tolerant of Adam, if you can believe it. I kind of think that Y&R has decidedly toned down Chloe's character on the Adam nagging. It must have become too much even for them. Well, when Nick finally arrived to Sally's hotel room and learned what had happened, he made the interesting decision to not tell Sally about what was going on with Cameron. What do you guys think of that? I'm sure that he was thinking that he didn't want to stress her out and he didn't want to give her more to worry about on top of a really bad day. But it also leaves her unprepared in the same way that Faith was unprepared for her run-in with Cameron and the same way that Mariah and Tessa are unprepared for dealing with Cameron. So it's interesting that the information is being disseminated only in certain places. Then again, maybe Nick felt that this was Sharon's story. It was not his story to share. But then again, he had no problem sharing Sally's pregnancy difficulties with Sharon. So I don't know. I'm going to assume that Nick's going to tell Sally here in a couple days, and Sharon's going to talk to Mariah and Tessa the same way she talked to Faith. I'm glad she sat down and talked to Faith. It was a really difficult task for her. I am sure that that would be so hard to do as a woman, to retell and think about and relive in some ways the story of being victimized in the way that Sharon was, but then let alone also approaching it from being a mother and as a mother having to retell that story. And it would be hard to hear that as a daughter too, I would imagine. So, hey, let's hope that Faith is able to stick around for the summer to help support Sharon and to keep Cameron away from Sally and Sally's baby and baby Arya too. Mascara tears don't lie. And neither does DNA. It's a match. Phyllis is busted. That should be the cover of the soap opera, the Y&R Weekly magazine this week. Phyllis is busted. DNA match. Back in the day when it was like Soaps Weekly. There was like a Soaps Weekly magazine. There was enough to talk about and enough interest in it that we had a weekly publication. I'm sure both Phyllis and Christine were on plenty of covers. Christine felt like a total fool for falling for another one of Phyllis's tricks. Christine felt like a total fool for dedicating all of her efforts to getting justice for Phyllis as her first order of business as the town's DA. So the news of this betrayal of Phyllis's hit Christine like a direct slap in the face. Of course Phyllis would do this. Of course she would stand there at her own funeral, watching everyone grieve. This is classic Phyllis. I should have known better after everything she put me through. And so Christine has vowed to make Phyllis pay, which I really can't wait to see. Christine said, Phyllis has no idea what kind of hell she has unleashed. Ooh, I can't wait. Hell from Christine, yes. And Chance told Summer that Christine is planning to make a big deal out of catching Phyllis and that she's going to try to make a public example of her after all of the embarrassment and all of the wasted resources that this has cost the city. It is not just going to be a perp walk. Oh no, it's going to be a perp parade. And I certainly hope so. I can't wait to see the bug crush Phyllis. And if we think that's going to be entertaining, just wait until Diane and Phyllis come face to face for the first time. Ooh, that's going to be good. Diane is going to have so much to say. Michael and Christine made a personal visit to the Abbott house to tell Diane the news. And Christine had to apologize for the wrongful prosecution, which I thought Diane took pretty graciously, considering she was crawling out of her skin, not being able to walk around the block or go out for a night on the town. The biggest highlight of Diane's week was about to be getting a book. And a lovely little flower from Jack, too, by the way. He got her a book and a flower. He is such a cute boyfriend. But Chance also made a house call to get that blasted ankle monitor off of Diane so that she could go out on the town wearing a dress that shows off her ankles. First stop, society. I actually think Diane and Jack should have gone way bigger than that. Maybe fly all the way to Noah's European Glam Club opening for a night out. Jack could write the whole thing off as a business expense if they were to stop by the Jabot lab in Paris to visit Allie while they're there. But then, what fun would that be? I mean, we got to see Ashley's reaction when Diane showed up at Society. Apparently, Jack was out parking the car or something because Diane was standing there at the maitre d' host station all alone. And Ashley was so shocked to see Diane out and about, she nearly called the cops. As if Diane was going to break house arrest for seafood enchiladas or whatever. I mean, I know that their food is good, but come on, not that good. Diane was so smug, so deliciously smug, breaking the news to poor Ashley. Diane actually called Ashley part of the coven. The coven! Wait a minute! Record scratch. Did Y&R borrow that term from Y&R Chat? No. Yes or no? I can't remember who came up with it, but that has been, the coven has been a really great, funny label for the Ashley, Nikki, Phyllis alliance here at Y&R Chat for a while. And if Y&R were going to read fan comments and mine for content, I think Y&R Chat would be the place to do it. We are pretty darn creative here, if I do say so myself. Anyway, Diane invited Ashley and Tucker to sit down and celebrate with them, but Ashley had other ideas, such as asking Tucker to come work at Jabot, just so that she can have an ally there when Diane surely takes over the company or tries to. I don't know what makes Ashley think that Diane has her sights set on Jabot, especially when it was her boyfriend. It was Tucker who was the one who was secretly digging up Jabot's financial reports. Diane turned him down for helping. I don't know. It's irrational. Ashley has an irrational fear maybe when it comes to Diane. I guess it is a fear, though. I think Ashley just fears losing the things that are important to her, that have become vital to her. And I think she perceives Diane as a threat to all of it for one reason or another. Surprisingly, Tucker turned down the offer to go work at Jabot, although I feel like he's going to change his mind on that eventually. Tucker just tried to be the good influence. He tried to encourage Ashley to walk away. Let Jack and Diane just have it. Why don't you start a new company? Which is the same thing that Tucker's been saying since he came to town. But Ashley ain't having it. It has got to be her way. And it's petty. And it's selfish. And it's fun to watch. second stop on the Diane Freedom Tour was Moe's record store. Ooh, that is so cool. A record store. I do have a record store in the town that I live in still. Darn, I wish we could have seen the Y&R Genoa City record store. But I know there'd be limited potential for a set like that. It was a good tie-in with the jazz lounge and everything, but I just think, a record store would have been so cool. Why doesn't Y&R look into doing on-location shoots for stuff like that? Maybe as an alternative to set building. I don't know. What do I know? It's probably all too hard to control in a busy city like Los Angeles. There's probably a ton of background noise and there's probably too many factors. So, oh well. Moe's record store can exist in my mind. Well, the third stop on the Diane Freedom Tour was the Athletic Club for dirty martinis with an odd number of olives. I did not know that an even number of olives was bad luck. How have I gotten this far in life without knowing that? Now I do. Ooh. I'm pretty sure that Diane lost her taste for drinks, though, after the Cameron Kirsten incident. I mean, that would be really unsettling to have a stranger say to you. But I will give kudos because I think that was a really clever way to bring real life husband and wife together into a scene. And actually, it was a scene that I felt did add another layer to Cameron's character. It really helped me fill in the blanks on how this guy rapes women. Ugh. I can't wait for him to die. I'm going to look forward to his death. Welcome to town, Cameron Kirsten. I look forward to watching you die. That should be a tagline for the week. Welcome to town, Cameron Kirsten. I look forward to watching you die. And last stop of the evening, Jack and Diane headed down to the jazz club, where it all went wrong the night of the gala. We had some beautiful shots of Jack and Diane dancing together. I continue to love this set. I'm happy to see that piano player in the background. I'm happy to see the athletic club in general. And then there's the hotel upstairs. There's just so much going on under one roof. And to think, the entire time that Diane was mourning the last few months of her life, and at the same time that Nikki and Victor were finding out that Phyllis is alive, Phyllis herself was right upstairs above them in one of the hotel suites. Kyle was so relieved that his mummy was free. Mummy's free. Let's have champagne. I'll make sure that it's chilled to perfection. Gee, I better go tell Summer the news so she can hear it from me first. And Summer spent the week pretending to be sorry. She pretended she was going to buy Diane an I'm sorry spa gift certificate. But really, she was ready to rush back to Phyllis to complain and conspire and report it all. On top of what Phyllis has done to Summer and Daniel personally, she's also managed to turn them against each other. Summer told Daniel that she knew where Phyllis was, but she wasn't going to tell him. She didn't need his special brand of help. Phyllis had to force the issue to get the reunion with her son that she wanted. Yeah, it's still all about Phyllis. She wanted the reunion with her son. That's what she wanted. And she got it. It's weird that Phyllis had this whole subterfuge plan where she had to slip a hotel key into Summer's back pocket while she was shopping down Main Street. But Daniel just got a text message to come to the hotel room. That's a lot easier. Daniel's reaction kind of surprised me. I mean, at first he looked like he was glad that Phyllis was alive, but he also wanted to kill her. But then he kind of let Phyllis and Summer roll over him, and he agreed that it was best to protect Phyllis, protect the family at all costs, even if that means lying. That was a surprise, but it's all going to be moot anyway, since Kyle apparently followed Summer to the hotel, which was bound to happen, really, considering how cagey she's been acting, and she's been making up excuses to get away. So I gotta give kudos to Kyle for figuring it out. He has been so patient with Summer for all of this time, before and after they knew that Phyllis was alive. And what Phyllis has done has put Kyle and Summer, husband and wife, on opposite sides of a battle. And now, I guess the question is, will Kyle decide to switch sides and help Summer keep the secret about Phyllis because that means a lot to her? Or will his loyalty to Diane, his mother, and his loyalty to wanting justice to be done, will that be stronger? Which will be stronger? Daniel told Lily the truth about Phyllis this week, and for the second week in a row, Lily had a great mom-centered reaction. She said, "This is not what a mother does. A mother does not do this to her children." I thought that was a great real-world reaction to a soap world problem. I mean, we accept certain things from soap world problem, and Lily had a great real world reaction to the farce of it all. She was really upset, but then she pulled it back and she advised Daniel to focus on fixing things with Summer, because I think after all these months of being on the outs with Devon, Lily's got different priorities, and so she was wanting Daniel to fix his relationship with his sibling. I also thought it was a very cute little scene between Lily and Lucy. Lily and Lucy. Lily and Lucy. That just sounds good together. Lily and Lucy. I want them to go shopping together sometime and hang out a little bit more. I think Lily's going to make a great stepmom to Lucy. It was cute how smitten Lucy was with the idea that Lily and Daniel were real life Romeo and Juliet. And in some ways they were. They were star-crossed young lovers. And it was a good story. It was a beautiful story. They were so young, but they didn't know how to make a marriage work. I mean, I love that. Like, we were young, we were in love, and all that passion never went away. We just didn't know how to make a marriage work. But now here they are after all these years, maybe a little older, maybe a little wiser, maybe ready for a reunion. Although I guess maybe they don't see it that way yet. Because Lily told Devon that she thinks the timing is off for her and Daniel to have a reunion. But that's just silly. Hasn't she ever seen a romantic comedy or a soap opera before? Everyone knows this whole mess with Phyllis is just going to bring them closer together. So, Victor and Nate had their first date. Coffee at Society, then a walk in the park. Ooh, he's such a gentleman. Victor was totally smitten. A few smooth lines from Nate, pumping up Victor's ego, and Victor was given his approval. Hey, it worked on Victoria, so why wouldn't it work on Victor? Nate misted him. Nate misted the mustache. He's good. Ooh, he's good. It was funny. Victor told Victoria, "Well, of course I approve of your new boyfriend, but you don't need my approval." Ha! There's a laugh. But laughable as it is, I guess it's nice at least to see that Victoria's mommy and daddy are both treating her like a big girl these days. Because it's not like Nate is the next Ashland Locke. Nate's big secret is that he wants a promotion. Big deal. Yeah, the scenes between Audra and Nate are good for revealing all of that, getting more sense of who the two characters are. But those scenes are also becoming a bit of a miss for me. I mean, it's looking like they're conspiring, but what's the conspiracy? Nate told Audra, hey, guess what? I had a meeting with Victor, and you'll never believe what my strategy was. I told the truth. Ooh, living on the edge. Move fast and break things. That's Audra Charles' idea of living on the edge. Move fast and break things. That was our quote from last week. Audra was explaining to Nate her school of thought on things. Move fast and break things. I thought that was a good line. I'm enjoying Audra, even if those scenes aren't, don't make total sense. Not living up to what a conspiracy should be. But hey, big congrats to Henry, Daisy, Naomi, Ron, Tina B, wonderful Wendy, hello, Kamna, and good old Marky. You guys guessed that it was Audra. Now let's do a new quote. Because it is so hot here. I don't know if it's hot where you are, but it's sweltering here. If this is June, I don't even want to know what July is going to be like. So I thought maybe we'd do a little Christmas in July quote here. When I heard it, I was like, ooh, that sounds cool for a hot week. Who said this? Feels like Christmas. It's so ironic considering how much it doesn't feel like Christmas. Who said feels like Christmas? If you think you know, go to yrchat.com, leave your guess, and if you get it right, I will give you your jingle bells during next week's Y&R Chat. Now on to your comments, and boy, have I got a good one to start us out from Kamna, who says, I have one theory and one wish. Theory? Adam is going to deliver the baby, given this week's reference to the fact that he delivered a calf. Unless, of course, they lose the baby. Yeah. That is so, I had to pause there because that is such a good theory. I noted that Adam mentioned having delivered a calf, but I didn't make a connection to that. You're right. If Sally does have the baby, Adam is totes going to deliver it. Now, here's Kamna's wish. JT returns, and his redemption story is that he saves the entire Newman clan from crazy creep Cameron. Yes, Kamna, this thought occurred to me too. As soon as I started seeing the scenes, the flashback scenes with Sharon and Cameron where he was hitting her, I immediately had a feeling of a flashback to the feelings that I had with the JT Victoria abuse situation. And so they became immediately connected in my mind, Cameron and JT. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. It cannot be a coincidence that JT has been mentioned. Maybe JT's going to be the one to come back to help bust, kill, send away Cameron Kirsten, and that's part of his redemption story for also having been involved in violence towards women. So I think that is a total possibility, not just a wish. I think that's a wish that could come true. Now, talking about Mr. Cameron Kirsten, the crowd has a lot to say, starting with Jamie, who says, my skin is still crawling from seeing Cameron put his disgusting hand on Sharon's beautiful face. The terror in her eyes broke my heart. This storyline has completely sucked me in. I would love to see Nick kill Cameron for real this go around. Yes, I think I'm going to be interested to see the poll results, because I think that a lot of people it's effective, right? I mean, he is an effective villain, because I felt the same way when he finally creeped his way up to Sharon. It was just like, this guy. And Tony says, Cameron is a reminder that there were storylines with evil character behaviors back in the day. Not so much, I will trick you out of your co-COO job. Yeah, Tony, that is true. It does seem like the brand of villain these days is more villain-like. It's not villain evil. It's not horror. It's not, it's just, I kept thinking of David Kimball. I mean, yeah, it was a dark, vampire-y kind of villain in a way, like the one that really wants to do the serial killer type stuff. We used to get that kind of thing on soaps back in the day. And yeah, the brand of villain that we get this day is much more corporate, like, I'm gonna take your job. But yeah, this is not that. T. Nicole says, I was not watching the show when Cameron was first on from the flashbacks, but I guess he's a very good villain, because I honestly felt uncomfortable when he's on my screen. Villains like Ashland and Jeremy, you can have fun with, but Cameron is a tough watch. Watching even the flashbacks of the physical and sexual assault on Sharon, and even the idea of him interacting with Sally and Faith, makes me feel sick. Let's just get Nick with Sharon together and have him gone. T. Nicole, I know. It's like Ashland and Jeremy didn't really pan out to be that brand of a villain. Like, so you can almost kind of have a little more fun with it, because they're bad light. They're light baddies who are also kind of sexy guys. So you can it's just a different level of enjoyment. Cameron, it's like it's not enjoyable. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to watch him. And yeah, when he said that about, I wanted to kill him. When he said that to Nick about Faith being a pretty little thing, oh gosh, it's just, ugh. But it really is reminiscent of the past. Whew. Well, Daisy says, Cameron happened to speak with Sally, who's dating Nick. Also, Faith, Nick, and Sharon's daughter. I wouldn't be surprised if he kidnaps them both to get back at Sharon and Nick for turning him in, and so on. And because Sally has the beginning of preeclampsia, I think Cameron holding her will likely cause her severe health issues, putting her pregnancy at risk. Cameron is so insane, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does something like this. Yeah, that is so true. And I didn't even think about it, but he could easily have planned to run into Sally and Faith both in the park on purpose. I mean, I guess I thought, yeah, he probably did run into Sally on accident, because that almost seemed unrelated at first. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe he darn well knows exactly what he's doing and exactly who he's interacting with. Sherrod says, I feel that, because Sally thought Cameron was a nice guy. She's not going to have her guard up around him. Cameron may try to kidnap her because he thinks the baby she's carrying belongs to Nick. Sally loses the baby. Sally turns on Nick for not warning her about Cameron. And also, why has Sharon only warned Faith about Cameron and not Tessa and Mariah? Never mind. I know. They're not a part of the story. I kind of wonder if Mariah and Tessa will be part of this story, though. Maybe I'm just leaning on the side of Sharon is going to do it next week. That would be my thought. And I keep thinking that Nick's probably going to tell Sally next week. Like, maybe he didn't want to do it immediately, but it is within his plans. But you're so right, Sherrod, in that Cameron should probably know that Nick and Sally are dating, and he might possibly assume that the baby Sally's carrying is Nick's. So maybe it's not just that he has his eyes on Sharon, not just that he has his eyes on Arya, but it may be that he is wanting to get revenge on Nick by going after Sally. Because it was made clear by that scene on Friday where when Nick approached Cameron and he said, yeah, I can see that you're about as happy to see me as I am not happy to see you, or something like that. It's clear that this is not only something that's terrorizing Sharon, but it is bringing back a rival for Nick. So if Cameron goes after Sharon, that's, you know, part of his personal plan there to get with her or whatever is going on in his sick brain. But going after Sally and Sally's baby might be part of his revenge plan for Nick. Tina B says, so Nick gets out of bed from spooning with Sally to run to Sharon. Where's Chance? I really don't think Chance and Sharon are going to be a pair. He's more protective of Summer and her emotions than protecting Sharon, who has a very handsome, albeit unkept villain stalking her. Yeah, I don't think that Sharon and Chance are going to end up making it happen either. It feels to me that all of this is leading to the Nick and Sharon reunion. Chance might very well be just building up toward a relationship with Summer. It could, because here's a point from Gary, who says, Chancellor does have enough to put Kirsten away. You can't be targeting your victim with bloody champagne and books of matches when you're on parole in order to keep many miles away with no contact. So to what purpose is all of this? To reunite Nick and Sharon? I was always on board with this possibility, but now it seems boring. Give the beautiful woman another chance at real romance before sending her out to pasture with Nick. What are they going to do? Never break up again like Victor and Nikki? Yeah, it does feel like a vehicle for a reunion of Nick and Sharon, and that's a good point. But also, the point I really like, Gary, is Chancellor should certainly have enough evidence to keep Kirsten away from Sharon, or to file something or other if he's out on parole or if he's out in any capacity. Shouldn't the victim have been notified? And surely a term of the parole would have been for him to keep a certain distance from the victim. And I mean, with all of that, at this point, restraining order? Hello? Is that possible? I mean, hello? He's now stalking her again. Surely that should be enough for a restraining order. Maybe we'll see that next week. Ellen says, people who are fresh out of prison on Y&R seem to have unlimited funds for fancy hotels and booze. You know, it is interesting, Ellen, that Y&R made sure to establish that Cameron Kirsten is still rich. He has still got plenty of money to pull off whatever he needs to pull off. He's got the money, he's got the means, and as Sharon said, it might just be that he doesn't care about the consequences. Well, Sue W. says, I appreciated the Cameron flashbacks. A creep of the most ugly character. His now unkempt look is totally fitting for his unkempt soul and pushes down any positive distraction of handsome hanging around about his nastiness. But the actor is handsome. Yeah, again, it's like with Jeremy, for instance, or Ashland. It's like, okay, yeah, bad guy, but, you know, they are still handsome, so it's a little bit fun. But Cameron, it's like he is totally unkempt. He's meant to be villain through and through. But it is interesting to me that Cameron still sees himself as handsome. You know, he looks in the mirror and he likes what he sees. This is really well done on Y&R's part, in that this is an example of one of the many ways that Cameron deludes himself. I think Y&R intended him to look unruly, but then they went to the trouble of having the character comment on his own handsomeness. I think that's very good writing, and it really tells us more just about how totally out of check with reality he is. He sees himself in a certain way that is just not how the rest of the world sees him. He sees his relationship with Sharon that it's just totally not matching reality. The way he was talking to her, it was like they had been romantic partners. Like he hasn't processed the fact that he committed a crime, or he has shown no remorse or even an absorption of what he did to her. It's just delusion after another delusion. Victoria says, not to diss the set crew, but that photo of Faith behind Nick today screamed publicity headshot. This actress is adorable, and it would have been so easy to snap a photo of one of the family's better times, such as making breakfast, shopping for clothes, girls' movie night, etc., thus bringing out her personality instead of her beauty. Oh, Victoria, I have totally noticed that headshot of Faith a long time ago, and I've been thinking it forever, so thank you for saying it. It's like that photo does look like a publicity headshot. It doesn't really even totally look like her. It's clearly a beauty shot. I don't know, maybe Faith went to the mall and got her glamour shots or something, but yeah, there's something that just doesn't fit. It's out of place. All of the other photos are of events, or events that we've seen, or they're a little more casual. But this one just feels like, here's my headshot. I think Y&R, especially since Faith's been on for a while, I think they can do better. They need to replace that photo. Well, Sue W. says, Melody Thomas Scott and Susan Walters play off of one another so well. Diane's raised eyebrow to Nikki's learning Phyllis is alive, telling Summer, I'm so sorry you have to go through this, was hilarious, as was Nikki's thinly disguised sneer at Diane when Jack and Diane left. But after the laughter, I'm left questioning, which gal had the best hair in the scene? Both so gorgeous. You guys, I was thinking, I'm so glad you brought this up because I have a question and I need someone to truly answer this for me. Someone must know. Does Susan Walters color her hair in any way, or is she naturally basically the most perfect gray hair possible? Did she just happen to gray in the most beautiful way possible with just the ever so slightest wispies in the most strategically amazing and perfect places? Or does she do a wash on part of it? What's the deal with her hair? Is it naturally that perfect, or is there a little something that she does? Somebody please, please, please tell me, because I'm really hoping I can go out gray like her. At the end of the day, I just want some hope that maybe my hair will gray in an attractive way. I want to grow gray gracefully. And yes, Nikki's hair. Oh, the curly blonde. She looked so good this week. Christine, too. Diana says, I loved Christine's bubblegum pink pantsuit this week. That is my favorite shade of pink. Very pretty and professional outfit. I also thought Nikki's hair looked great this week. Her wavy hair had a retro look that reminded me of how characters looked on the nighttime soaps, like Dallas and Knots Landing. I never watched those shows, but I think Nikki maybe looked similar to the actress Donna Mills. I thought Melody Thomas Scott looked more youthful with her hair styled this way. Yeah, Diana, there was something kind of retro about it, right? It was good. It was sort of like crunchy curl, a little crimpy curl. Yeah, I liked that too. Like someone was scrunching it. Someone was scrunching that hair. Yeah, I like that a lot. And what the heck else was I going to say about her hair? Oh, the other flashback. On Friday, we had the flashback of Nikki and Sharon when Sharon was telling Nikki about Cameron Kirsten. I thought both girls looked really beautiful in that scene too. I was wondering, I thought to myself, how old is Melody Thomas Scott there? Because now when I'm watching, I think somebody said it was, what year was this? 2001, 2, 3? When I was watching that scene originally, I must have been in my early 20s, so she probably seemed like my mother's age back then. And now I'm watching it in my 40s, and I'm thinking, was she my age now? Was she then my age now? So I don't know. But they both looked really great. I love seeing those classic scenes. Hey, about Kyle. Ellen says, do we think that Kyle can pull off the outrage and betrayal scenes that are definitely coming up? I hope the actor can give us some really good angry emotions, not just his pouty face and hound dog moaning. Summer deserves to be put on blast after she lied and accepted Kyle's comfort and concern for so long. Oh, this is a great point. Michael Mueller is clearly so talented, but he really isn't given the chance to do something meaty. You're right. It's hound dog, pouty face and hound dog moaning. Oh. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Michael Mueller being given a chance to impress us next week with some outrage. Sue W. says, I admire Michael Mueller's acting chops. I think he deliberately and successfully plays the spoiled, rich man boy with mommy abandonment issues that Kyle is meant to be. His character blusters, whines, and huffs and puffs when angry or sad or intimidated. And no doubt, Michael Mueller designs such Kyle-isms to be comedic and or cringy. And it takes skill to intentionally play an unintentional doofus. If Kyle ever evolves past feeling second banana in everything, or if Michael Mueller was to play a character very vastly different from Kyle, I bet the actor would nail that portrayal as well. I'm a fan. Sue W., this is perfect. It takes intelligence to play dumb so well. And that is true of many of the great comedic actors of our time. I mean, you could just think back on, you know me, I love old TV land style TV. I love old 60s TV shows. But, there's like the idiot, the clown. It's a skillful portrayal that you have to have. And I think that Michael Mueller does pull that off. I am always screen capping him. He has the faces that are so screen cappable. And it is funny. I find him to be giving a comedic style delivery most of the time, even when he's blustering, even when he's mad or blubbering or hound dog. There is something that's kind of funny about it. And you're probably right that it is crafted intentionally. But I believe that he will be able to pull off some anger, some different kinds of emotions. I think we see a lot of the same, and he's very good at it. But I would like to see some more out of him, and that's certainly no slack on him. I think Y&R doesn't really give him the material, but I'm thinking that next week they might. Daisy says, when, I think it's a when, Summer and Kyle get divorced, I would love to see Harrison's mother return. I think there would be a battle where everyone wants custody, and it's likely that Tara would have a good chance of getting it, since Summer is the stepmother, and Kyle erased his mother's memory. I would love, though, to see how Tara's return would affect Kyle and the Abbott family. It's interesting how often Tara comes up. She was on the show for such a short amount of time, and yet she comes up quite a bit. I liked her a lot, and I agree. I'd like to see her come back. She'd be another good villain to bring back who would have some relevancy to the stories that are going on today. Gary says, on the town, what, I ask chats, is cooler than Diane Jenkins saying she can't wait to chat up the bartender because she's dying to engage in little small talk with strangers, like me with the local butcher. That's a great little bit of snappy writing that Scabs couldn't write. Jack totally gets it and isn't even jealous. Look at that happy smile on his face. And Jack and Diane are doing it in vinyl. Yeah, that was very relatable too. That's kind of how we felt maybe during COVID, where it was like, gee, we don't even have small talk with anybody anymore. You start to miss stuff like that. Yeah, that was a nice little nuance. But Diane is now free, while Phyllis has become a prisoner of her own making. Ellen says, Phyllis, quote, I'm so deeply sorry. Also, nothing is my fault. Also, I'm still insanely irrational when it comes to Diane, end quote. So basically, she's not sorry. She just doesn't want to be separated from her children. Yeah, I think Phyllis wants it both ways. I'm sorry for what I did, but the devil made me do it. So it's not really my fault, is it? Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, Robin says, I don't think the Cameron/Jeremy storylines are connected. I think a Phyllis trial will bring back the old bad blood with the bug. Summer will crack on the stand. Michael will now represent Phyllis and get her a manslaughter charge, and she'll do a little time like Lily and open up a new story about women in prison. Oh, well, I had theorized that maybe Cameron coming onto the scene as the catch-all bad guy might end up revealing that he was the one that killed Jeremy after all, thus getting Phyllis off the hook. But you think that Phyllis will actually go to prison. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Christine would love to put her there. I mean, you know that's true. Well, Gary says, my phone says that Doug Davidson is getting ready to dish all the dirt from Young and the Restless in a book. The piece says he was fired and not invited back for any anniversary celebrations, while the public wants him back. I would lower my standards to read such a scandal. Ooh, so Doug Davidson is writing a book. Would you read it? That's a good question. I think I'd read his book, provided it was about more than just that. I mean, well, who am I kidding? I'm sure I'd want to read it either way. How about you guys? Also on Gary's phone, Gary says the phones say that soaps are running out of scripts. The scabs could write them, or the writers could continue writing and give up their benefits. We have scabs here at Y&R Chat. Should the strike ever be resolved, what a trial for the professional writers to have to put themselves back on track after the scabs took the characters left field. All soap ratings are down since the strike. The strike could possibly kill all soaps off for good. Doom and gloom. Don't believe it. But do believe that the strike will go on forever. It always does. Well, at least Diane is free under the current reign of scripts. I lost track of that, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably been nearly a month since the writers' strike started. So Y&R maybe has, 6 weeks worth of scripts in the can? So we probably are coming up about to the end of our pre-recorded shows. Does anyone know what's going on that could give us some information? Has Y&R totally stopped production? Are there new scripts being produced? Somebody please weigh in this week and let us know. What are we going to do in the meantime? Ooh, maybe we should have saved the Cameron Kirsten flashbacks for over the break. Well, let's end up talking about last week's poll. I asked you guys if you like the kid-centered stories on Y&R. 56% of you said, no, not really. 44% of you like them. Tony says, I like baby switches and paternity mysteries, but I don't care for stories where the kids are the speaking characters in a storyline. Right now, Christian is my favorite kid on the show. By the way, I still think Bella is Billy's. Ooh, I like that. Bella is Billy's. That would be good. But that's probably the funniest line of the week right there. Right now, Christian's my favorite kid on the show. That sums it up pretty well. Henry also voted no, not really, regarding the kid-centered storylines. To me, it depends on so many factors. The first factor being the age of the kid. And secondly, I have to have a good vibe for the kid. For example, I love the kid portraying Lucy. She's great. Connor had to grow on me a bit, but in the end, I came to appreciate him. Johnny doesn't do it for me. Faith is cool. So I'm all over the place when it comes to the kid-centered stories, and voting no was my best bet. The title of the show is Young and the Restless. Maybe they had kid-centered storylines in mind when they came up with the title for the soap. Yeah, you make a good point that it really does kind of depend on the kid. You know, not every kid is a total hit for me. Cameron Grimes as Cassie is a really good example of a kid that was a hit. I mean, she was magic. No, I mean, of course, now I was younger back then, but I just thought she totally nailed it. I always liked Cassie. I never felt like she was super hokey or anything. Like, I felt connected to her immediately. And Cameron Grimes, I believe, was like the youngest person to win an Emmy for that role. So you're right. It depends on the kid. Ron says, I like them, mainly when the child actors stick with the show and we get to see them grow up and get the flashbacks of when they were young and restless from the get-go. Like Connor. I really like watching Connor's development. Yeah, it is good when we get to kind of look back and see them through the ages. And again, Cassie's a really good example of that, too. Well, we'll end with Robin here, who says, about the kids' storylines. Every summer, going back to Teenage Nikki, Paul, Tracy, Lauren, the Brooks girls, Danny, Cricket, Sharon, etc. In the summer, there's a teen storyline. It often takes place on a current social issue, or it often takes on a current social issue, and the goal is to attract young viewers home from school and a learning storyline. That's how I got hooked in the summer of 1974. Yes, Robin, that is exactly right. That's how you got hooked in the summer of 1974, and that's how I got hooked in the summer of 1993. Well, speaking of kids, I have chosen to do an all-audio Y&R chat this week because last night, right before bed, my daughter was super excited because she is going to camp on Monday. And she was looking at the camp calendar and looking at all the things that she was going to be doing next week. And she was just so cute. I bent down to give her a kiss on the top of her head. And at the exact moment that I went to give her the kiss, she jumped up with all of the excitement of a 6-year-old getting ready for camp next week. Full force bunny hop jumped up into my mouth. Right, hit me right in the mouth with the full force of the top of her very hard head. And so I have a very big black, blue, purple lip right now. But my top and my bottom lips are black and blue and swollen. And I just thought nobody needs to look at that for an hour, especially not on the week after we had to watch the flashbacks with Sharon. So I just made the decision. I was like, I cannot even cover this up with lipstick. And I don't know. I just didn't want you to have to see that. But I'm sure it looks a lot worse than it feels. And also it just happened last night, so it really hasn't had much time to calm down. But I'm sure by next Sunday, my lips will be fully repaired and back to normal. Yeah. Oh, wow. I love top of the head kisses with my daughter, and darn, we just had some bad timing there. I'm so glad I didn't break my teeth though. That was the first thing I went from, like, my front teeth broken? No, they just hit my lips. Oh well. Hopefully you don't mind this only audio version. And like I said, I will be back next Sunday. So in the meantime, you should go to yrchat.com. You can leave your comments. You can vote in the poll about Cameron Kirsten. You cannot see any screen caps from the Cameron Kirsten hotel scenes with Sharon because they're not there because I didn't get them. But I did get some other ones. I got some Sharon, some Nikki, and I got a lot of Cameron. I just was not going to relive any of that. I think you guys are really into this storyline. I could tell that there were a lot more comments this week. So this storyline is creating chatter. So go to the website, read the comments that are there, leave your own comments. I again want to say how totally grateful I am to you guys for leaving those comments there. I never want to take those for granted at all. I mean, that is the meat and potatoes of Y&R Chat, everything that you guys leave there. So please keep them coming. And again, I will be back next Sunday to let you know what I think. I love you guys. I hope you have a really good week. Bye.